today we're actually interviewing Kirsten, Clacey and Jay-Allen Morris, the collective as we know as the remote coaches. How are you today?
Pretty good. It's sunny outside. Cape Town has like summer on its way, so I'm good.
Fantastic. And Jay as well.
I'm also good. In my area, it's a little bit cloudy and cold, which is my favorite weather. So Cape Town is showing up for everybody today.
Brilliant. So for the viewers, that they may or may not know you, so what I'd like to do is just give you an opportunity to introduce yourself. So you can find out between you who goes first, but please tell us a little bit about where you've come from and who you are.
Go for it, Jay.
Yeah, so I'm Jay. I guess Jay-Allen Morris, if you need my full name. So Kirsten and I have been working together for quite a long time, for many years. And we kind of connected in the real world over some white cool sneakers that we both loved. And our relationship kind of grew from there, and we started really caring about remote facilitation and how to make these spaces more human. And that was kind of like long before the pandemic, because we were working with people from offices kind of in different parts of the world. And we cared about the craft of facilitation, and we wanted to translate that in the remote space. And I guess as we do, we collaborated, we worked well, we figured out how to refine this as a remote facilitation craft. And then we kind of started speaking at conferences, got introduced to Esther Derby by some beautiful coincidence, which I guess led us to write the book. And I'll hand it over to you so I don't tell everything.
Sounds like so I guess from there, then there was just like serendipity. The pandemic hit and we had this book coming out, and since then we've focused most of our attention on building community. So we co-run a community called Hacking Remote Facilitation, and that's just a community of facilitators and coaches all over the world it's very experimental. So we get together and we play with stuff and we test stuff out on each other. And yeah, we're still learning. And we also work full time. So I don't know, Jay, if you want to mention, but Jay's an agile coach at IO and I am a facilitator coach at Automatic at the moment, both distributed organizations.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah. And serendipitously, we met through Esther as well, because when we were creating the framework, she was on the challenge committee and mentioned, oh, you should talk to these ladies are doing some amazing stuff in the remote. And we've been talking ever since, I guess. Yeah. So I want to pick you up a little bit on that, because I heard you just say, I'll preface that, first of all, of course, the book that you're talking about is the Remote Facilitator's Pocket Guide, and we will get to that, but there's so many other things that you do. I want to chat about those a little bit as well, and the remote hacking channel that you were talking about. How can people get involved with that?
Yeah, so it's currently, like, if you know someone in it or if you chat to us directly, we haven't gone the big meetup route, because when you have a big meetup channel or whatever, then you just get overwhelmed. So if people want to join, they just need to reach out to us via email, and then we just ask them a few questions like, this is what it's about, just checking you know what you're signing up for. It's highly experimental, very participatory. We are looking for people who are very passionate about this work to join, and then if we're on the same page, they are more than welcome to join.
It's brilliant. And the bar's very high because you let me in, right? So I know she did. Brilliant. So some of the other things that I know that you're doing. So just recently, you had your first remote conference call, Unmute. Talk to me about that one, team.
I guess I can start and Jay just jump in. So we obviously are passionate about online spaces, and we also know that online spaces don't feel the same, partially structurally, like they are just different spaces, and partially also as a craft, we're all busy learning what it takes to actually create meaningful spaces. So if the catchphrase of 2020 was "you're on mute," we thought let's do the opposite and create a conference called Unmute. And it was really for facilitators, coaches, and leaders to explore what can we do to bring people together in like really meaningful, impactful ways online. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. I don't know, Jay, if you want to add anything.
Yeah, tell me some more about it, Jay. Tell us who was there, and are you going to do it again?
Well, actually, what is interesting is I was a participator in this conference because I'm currently busy with coaching studies, so I couldn't get involved in the planning aspect. But I was fortunate enough to get a free ticket to the event, and it was so awesome. Like, there were such high quality speakers, and now I can speak as someone who attended, so I'm not really selling else. There were high quality speakers like Esther Derby. I think the RAF guys were also there.
Joanna Rothman.
Joanna Rothman. Oh,
There was some big names. Benjamin Fellis. What we tried to do was curate a program that had like a diversity of speakers. So we had a couple of speakers speaking about asynchronous stuff. So how do you make the async space better? Then we had Ben Fellis, who's a graphic recorder and visual expert. So he was doing stuff about how do we navigate the visual space. And then there were also, there were like deep coaches. There were almost people in the psychology realm. There was
the show and tell space, which was really cool.
Yeah. There was a UX expert as well. That was someone I was curious to have, is how do you bring like a UX mindset to designing online spaces as well. So it was an interesting lineup.
I noticed you didn't answer my question. Are you going to do it again?
Because it's still a question. I think we will. It was experimental in many ways. Our model was also 100% profit share with all the speakers equally, which is also quite different for a conference. But to do that, you have to sell a certain number of tickets to get that kind of profile speaker. So it's quite challenging. So I think we will. We'll definitely do it again. But we're just not fully saying that yet, but we know we will.
Well, we'll be encouraging you to as well. So you were both involved in remote agility framework early on as well. You were part of our early adopters program. So I guess, I've got to get a little bit of a plug in for the framework. I'd like to get your thoughts on it for the viewers, what you think about the remote agility framework as well. Oh. And you can be honest as well.
I got lots of thoughts. Go for it, Jay.
I think for me, like, the amount of thought that went into all the aspects of the framework was just amazing. I think it was a year ago that we did the initial course. It was in November, if I'm not mistaken.
You are right. Yes.
And I'm still trying to take pieces of it and try to figure out how to fit this in my space. But I think the amount of content was amazing. The amount of thinking that happened in the course was amazing. The story me and story us is the one thing that's just been so magical with my teams. So I feel I'm still trying to dissect all the things, because there was just depth.
Yeah, maybe to add on to that, I think I've heard it said before that Agilists are typically pretty bad collaborators. You see all these new Agile things forming in different pockets. Yes. And what I love about RAF is it represents the opposite for me. You've taken all the good things in the industry, like complexity theory and Wardley stuff. And when I hear Andrew speak, I'm just how is your brain so big? And that is the rich theoretical background that lives behind this stuff. And I feel like we need more frameworks that are doing this, that are consolidating and building on knowledge rather than trying to create something in a little bit of an echo chamber. So I really appreciate that. I feel like whenever I'm using a canvas or something from RAF, I can really trust where it's coming from. So yeah, there's lots of pieces I've used. We can talk about our favorite ones if you want, but that's what came to mind for me.
This is really bad, you. I just had to sneak a little bit in there. I did that on purpose because it's really brilliant to have people such as yourself within our. We like to think of RAF as a movement. more
Mm.
than just a framework, right? And it's people such as yourself feeding back into the community, the guides feeding into the community and continually improving it. And that's the way we want to continually create it with that open source type mindset. So that's why I asked the question more than anything. It also leads into the other one, because I know that you there's more than one or two remote coaches. So you have remotecoaches.com, right? So I want to give you an opportunity to talk about that and the other participants as well. So talk to us a little bit about what that's all about and how that works.
Yeah. So we're kind of like a community run by a community, I guess, with levels of community in there. So the three of us who are like the primary founders are myself, Jay-Allen, and Joanne Perold. And then we've also got a community around that who really does a lot of work with us too. And that's Sokotra Williams and Chloe Anzigale. And then we've got the community, which is amazing. I mean, it would take forever to list all the wonderful humans there, but it's a very active and alive group of people experimenting and connecting across the world.
So if I was to ask you a question about that, and maybe you can answer this one for me, Jay, if someone comes to remotecoaches.com, what can they get involved in? What are the things that they can see and do there?
Well, I guess if you're going to the website, you can find out, you can contact us about this closed community that we have, which is a really great space for support, connection. I know I use it when I'm trying to test out ideas, like I'm not sure how I will facilitate something, and I have like this access to a brilliant band of people and facilitators all across the world, as Kirsten said. You can also get content or access to our free content. We have a lot of freebies on our website, where you can pretty much download it and take it and use it however you need it in your space. We also blog fairly often. So as far as possible, when we learn something new or we're experimenting with something new, we try and blog about it, we share it. We've also started sharing after each of our monthly events. We share like a little blurb of what happened, what did we learn, who you can contact to learn more. So we also try and amplify other voices of contributors who interact in our space.
That's brilliant, yeah. And so in case you missed that before, it's remotecoaches.com. So make sure you get a chance to go and have a look at that. So that means it brings me to the book. And I did say I'd circle back around. So obviously you both came together, and how I got to know you was because off the back of that book, which is the Remote Facilitator's Pocket Guide, if I'm right. I hope that I got that right, Dag. It's time to talk about the book. So for people who haven't heard of it or seen it, let me just say it's a brilliant book. And I'm not saying that just to plug it. I use it quite regularly when I'm working with organizations and teams. Just the other day, I recommended that to somebody. And my reasoning around that is because it's a great collection of things that you can use that allow you to test and learn and actually facilitate better. But I don't want to steal your thunder. Talk a little bit more about what the book does and how it works.
Go for it, Jay.
Yeah, so I guess it would be useful for us to share a little bit about how we wrote the book, so that you'd also understand how we appreciate people use it. So when we were planning the book, we try to think about a principles first approach. So what is the principle that you're catering for? Because the practice is useful and beneficial, but it's serving a particular need. So our book is kind of divided into 6 principles. And of course, we recognize that people like to see something practical. So they like to know, what does this mean in practice? And then, so we've added practical examples to each principle to kind of support what we're doing. And a lot of the examples you see in the book are things that we've actually done and actually tried with real teams and with real organizations. So yeah, we try to make the book as holistic as possible. So coming from a principles level, understanding practices, and also something that you can just pick up which is why I guess it's the pocket guide. You can pick up, you can use it, test it, try it, and maybe you'll adapt it for your own context.
Excellent. Talk to me a little bit more there, Kirsten, about some of the practices, just a taster of some of the things that are in there.
Yeah. So to do what Jay was saying, to anchor it on a principle, like we were kind of looking at what is really unique about the remote space. And yes, these things will still apply in person, but what is unique and how do we overcome those challenges? And one of the big challenges of online spaces is equity, right? Whether it's people dialing in with different hardware, bandwidth, environments, all the things, it's difficult to create an equitable space. So the principle we encourage people to think about is create equal opportunity and design your sessions with that in mind. And then some practical things that we have is, it ranges from simple to quite more complex facilitation, but the simple things are always have a visual tool to help people navigate the space together. Because when people drop off, it means they can connect back in and see where the group is. And it also enables people to speak their thoughts in numerous ways, right? Not just verbally, because remote calls rely heavily on verbal communication. And that's not necessarily everyone's preferred method, especially with different levels of English. So providing different opportunities for people to contribute is also another example. But what that looks like, there's practical images in the book, but that's to provide variety and have a visual tool to help people navigate.
That's great. And this is where you get to get a little plug. Where do I get it?
You get it on Amazon and Audible, and a lot of local bookstores have started importing it. And I think it's also translated into 3 languages, if I'm correct, Jay.
I think Korean, and they're busy doing Hungarian, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. I'm still waiting for my signed copy. Come on, guys.
Oh, we can do that now. That post is open.
Brilliant. Just sign the screen for me. That's brilliant. So I think, we're getting close to the end of our time. You've always got something on the cook. Is there anything else that you've got planned in the horizon you want to share, or is there anything else you're thinking about doing, or is it just cruising up to the Christmas break now?
Cruising. Well, it would be nice to be cruising, but no. Jay can also speak to it, but we do run training on remote facilitation, and we've got one coming up in October and one in November. And that's very immersive. The theory and the training, but lots of practicing. Like, do it with a group, get feedback, do it again, get feedback. So that's probably our big thing for the rest of the year. Jay, I don't know if there's anything else on your mind.
No, I think our focus just closing of the year is just a couple of community events and then this training, which people have been loving, especially the practical experience and getting real-time feedback.
Excellent. Yeah. Where do they go? Where do they go to sign up for the training?
On theremotecoaches.com/courses.
There we go. Oh, there's no sense talking about the training if you don't tell them how to get on there, so that's good. Yeah. And look, I know this has been a little bit of tongue-in-cheek and backwards and forwards, but the reality of it is, the remote and what I call remotish, which is, hybrid, or some people, bits and pieces, it's not going away, right? And we know that now that people have had a taste of it, they want to work that way, and there are organisations who are fully devoting themselves to that online kind of thing. I guess my final question for you, it's a little curly one, but that's all right, is what do you see as the future of remote work?
I have a guess. I think a lot of people have realized that they absolutely love remote work. And I think a lot of people have realized that it's just not for them. And I think that that's perfectly okay. I think some people have found that a little bit of remote work and a little bit of in-person is great. But I do think that remote work in general will be on the rise. And it will keep growing because of the flexibility, of the accessibility, of just like so many opportunities that it affords people. So I think that companies will start experimenting with what that might look like. In terms of what will happen, I have no idea.
That's a great answer. Kirsten, thoughts?
I think co-located and remote both have different pros and cons. And I think that most people, when they first encounter remote, focus on all the pros, but there's also downsides, right? There's challenges. Like if you consider for parents, often parents are heavily impacted by distributed working if they don't have the right setup. So what I'm seeing now, is a much more realistic look at like, okay, these are the pros and cons of both contexts, and let's be a little bit more strategic in designing our strategy as an organization of what we want, and then also what needs to be in place to support that. Because if we do want a long-term remote strategy, then organizations are going to have to invest in people's home offices or some kind of monetary compensation to go to a co-working space. So I think we're going to see a lot of like policy design or interesting, more high-level thinking about how to cater to the diversity of needs in both spaces. So.
Yeah, I've certainly encountered a couple now where they're providing, quite healthy stipends or stipends, however you want to pronounce that one, to set your home office up. There are organisations that I know that actually have organisations who come in and set your home office up for you.
Oh, cool.
Which is quite brilliant.
Wow.
So I think these things are only going to be on the rise as well.
Yeah, it's needed, I think, if it's to be sustainable.
Fantastic. Look, we're at the end of our time, so I just want to take a moment to thank you for spending time with us today and all the remote things. And we will keep in touch.
Yes, we shall. We will see you around.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
It's been a
it's
pleasure.
great chatting.